For the past few weeks, I've been undercover in an online cult, a cult by the name of Spirit Mysteries, ran by Spirit Science, a YouTuber and spiritual channel here on YouTube. I spent countless nights consuming this content, being brought to the brink of insanity. I have traveled deep into the tombs of Spirit Science and unearthed its mysteries. But what makes Spirit Science a cult? What makes Spirit Mysteries so dangerous? Well, in order to understand Spirit Mysteries, we need to go back, all the way back to the beginning, in ancient Egypt. Egypt and basically most of the ancient world, there were these things called mystery schools, or they were cults. You had cults for lots of things, certain gods. Egyptians had a belief that pharaohs were gods, so many worshipped the men who sat on that throne. A mystical item in this mythos, known as the Philosopher's Stone, takes center stage here at the beginning of our story. Predating the modern invention of chemistry, we had alchemy. Either it was the Egyptians that made these, or the so-called Atlanteans that came up with this, depending on who you ask. The gist of this is basically that at the center of alchemy lay the keys to wealth, enlightenment, and eventually everlasting life. But who was the being that actually discovered all this? Well, it would have been a man by the name of Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus was either that of a god or some spiritual-like being, taking on a messianic-like figure. Apparently, he's related to Hermes, the Greek god, as well as Thoth, the Egyptian god. Apparently, this ancient, absolutely everlasting spiritual figure happened to know how to save humanity. Hermes, or Thoth, is by far the most important figure in understanding this stuff. This whole weird neo-pagan mythos starts with this guy. Trismegistus would bestow this knowledge on the Egyptians, or he bestowed this knowledge on the Atlanteans. Basically, either way, it got to Egypt, where the Magi would literally and figuratively practice this alchemy underground in an attempt to bring everlasting life and a new golden age to humanity. Later in Egypt's history, when the Greek city-states start to interact with Egypt much more frequently, you had many famous historical figures who would travel to Egypt allegedly to discover the mysteries of the Magi. Famously, Herodotus, Plutarch, and Pythagoras all traveled to Egypt to learn the ways. A man by the name of Apollonius would eventually discover the Philosopher's Stone deep underground beneath the Sphinx of Egypt. The stone, made of emerald, would be on top of Hermes' body, and it was bestowed to Apollonius at that time. Apollonius took the stone from Egypt and eventually would bring it back. Allegedly, this stone rested in the Great Library of Alexandria until it was eventually burned in the Great Fire of the Library of Alexandria, along with either it was stored there or it was brought into Hollow Earth by Atlanteans or giants, and I mean that with the utmost seriousness. This is a start of a thing known as the Hermetic faith, Gnosticism, or Hermeticism. The faith we have today that is related to this is nothing like the original of that time. You see, a lot of things happened over the period of the invention of Gnosticism over towards modern history. You have years and decades of Christian persecution of those who practice magical and dark arts. Meanwhile, Christian philosophers and scholars would also practice this Hermetic and Gnostic text, which is where eventually Hermes gets associated with Christianity. Most famously today, these traditions are actually carried out by a group known as the Freemasons, who's a whole can of worms we won't actually break into today. However, they carry on a lot of the traditions of classic Gnosticism, including sacred geometry as well as alchemic meanings and practices. In order to understand where Spirit Mysteries and Spirit Science is really taking a bulk of their information from, you have to look at another group, a group by the name of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Of the Rosicrucian Order of Alpha Omega, let us celebrate the festival of the vernal equinox.
The man you see on screen right now is a man by the name of Aleister Crowley. He's incredibly famous for neo-pagan religion, specifically Wicca and a few others. You see, Aleister Crowley was a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn as he traveled through the East. While he was in the East, he discovered a lot of the practices of the yogis, as well as Buddhism and Eastern inward-focusing philosophy that focused on the self. He eventually did take these things back with him, and from that he created his very own religion, a religion known as Thelema. What makes Thelema so interesting is that it includes certain aspects of the Egyptian pantheon and ideas from ancient Hermeticism, put into this new modern fashion. You see, Crowley believed that magic was real, and he also spelled magic with a K. But Crowley believed you could physically enact your will onto the world by performing rituals, rites, and magical spells. This might sound familiar to some of you, as Crowley is considered one of the founding fathers of the Wicca religion. The influence he had on modern Wicca can't be understated, because one of the origin stories for the creation of modern Wicca actually has someone pretty much just plagiarizing the Thelma's books of rites and passages. Again, these are all religions and they all have their own separate origin stories. However, we can draw a line from Egypt all the way through to this time. Basically, all you need to know is that Wicca takes religious motifs from the things mentioned before, which brings us up to about the 1900s. It's at this time that we get exposed to the whole concept of neo-paganism, essentially at this time called the New Age movement. These New Age mystics would eventually practice hermetic rites and rituals, and also mix these with the free love personality and traits we've come to associate with the New Age movement. Essentially, New Age becomes basically a greatest hits album of all these pagan religions. There is a lot of history I'm skipping here, in particular the 60s and 70s, along with that whole free love boom, and the peak in interest of cults and religious sects that are violent. But it's within this time period in the 60s that we meet Jordan's teacher, a man by the name of Drunvalo Melchizedek. That's not his birth name, by the way.
Hello, my name is Drunvalo Melchizedek.
It's from Drunvalo that Jordan, Spirit Mysteries and Spirit Science is born. It's within these tomes that Drunvalo wrote that Spirit Mysteries would get its original founding religious ideas.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Okay. So I paid for this program, right, called Spirit Masteries, right? And Spirit Masteries is a thing created by this guy called Jordan, right? He runs a channel called Spirit Science. If you go on your own time and watch it, he's fucking nuts. So right now, I'm gonna need a profile picture, right? Who
You did not.
I had to make sure that the name sounded a little ethereal, but also, you know, down to earth, right? I'm gonna make it a convincing story, right? I'm not making some bullshit.
Okay, so what is the code? What am I?
Oh, okay, right now I just need a picture, right?
And here we are, meet Spirit Mysteries, allegedly based on those Egyptian mystery schools that I've mentioned. The man at the heart of this is a mystic visionary by the name of Jordan David Pierce Dushnight. You might know him as Patchman or Spirit Science over on YouTube with his legions of followers. Originally from Newgrounds, Jordan had a spiritual awakening that eventually would lead him on the path that he is today. Jordan allegedly has visions induced by taking ayahuasca, and in these he has prophetic messianic-like events that happen to him and him alone. Apparently through these experiences he met Thoth, aka Hermes Trismegistus. However, specifically Spirit Science refers to him as Thoth instead of Hermes Trismegistus. But here I am, a man named, and that's the name I chose because it sounded vaguely religious, and there's people here named River and other pseudo-Native American type names based on either regions, locations, or animals. It was specifically designed to blend into this group of people, a person that is associated with this weird New Age movement, so his name is New Age, as well as other things as being a person who had suffered a lot of trauma in the year 2020 and thus had found himself falling into Spirit Mysteries, a common reoccurrence on the platform of many people turning to a New Age religion because basically they didn't know where else to turn. This allows him to fit inside Spirit Mysteries and makes him as unnoticeable as possible. The guy in the picture is a guy I know named Joe, who was lucky enough to help me out here and lend his likeness to the name. So what is Spirit Mysteries straight up? It's basically a closed group where these people practice, preach, and talk about hermetic ideas. They might not call them hermetic ideas, but these are hermetic ideas all the same. It's a closed group that I had to pay real money to put into. Don't worry, I didn't give them my card, and I suggest you don't either. This closed group structure helps keep out trolls, annoyances, or people that are looking to basically get the ruse out of all of these people. It also is really great for keeping out dissenting voices. Spirit science and spirit mysteries are basically Jordan's views on hermetic ideas. It is Jordan taking what he feels works for him and adapting it to his spirit science mythos, his own version of this religion. He does take a lot of the ideas of Januvalo and he adapts it to his own. He turns it into something that is specifically Jordan. And I know, I'm calling this a cult, and cult is a loaded term, so we have to address why exactly I feel this is a cult.
My name is Jordan Duknich. I first began exploring spirituality and spiritual thought about 2 weeks before Christmas in 2010. Before then, I had not been raised in any particular religion, although my parents did take me to church when I was younger to see if I was interested. I guess innocence was how I was raised, not against or for any particular belief system of my own. I pretty much just floated through life like that, with much more down-to-earth and daily concerns than if I was following the will of a god that I didn't know or understand. When I first began learning about spirituality, I had said that there was always something missing and that I wanted to explore it further. So I did. Most of my free time from then on was spent researching and Googling around the internet, scratching the surface of discussions and seeing what people were talking about.
Essentially, anything can be a cult when group behavior and psychology play a role in the discussion. Some of you might be familiar with the BITE model, which stands for basically behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. A personal favorite of me is Rick Alan Ross, a professional cult deprogrammer who's been working in the field for a very long time. Rick Alan Ross defines a cult like so. 1. A charismatic leader who increasingly becomes an object of worship. 2. A process of indoctrination or education is in use that can be seen as coercive persuasion or thought reform. 3. Economic, sexual, and or other exploitation of group members by the leader and ruling courtier.
With all of our modern technology today, we cannot recreate the Great Pyramids of Giza. Modern society tells us the ancient Egyptians built them by dragging these blocks across the ground for hundreds of miles. I don't care how much you want to argue this. We cannot build them today. They defy everything we know about human origins. This is something worth discussing together as a global community.
Spirit Mysteries is essentially a Twitter Reddit hybrid where topics that you are subscribed to will get fed into your feed chronologically. Post, things from the Spirit Council, all of these things will flow into your feed, so people associated with the things that you are interested in will also show up there. When I first got on the site, it gestured me towards an introductory lesson, a lesson that gave us the origin story of the man at the center of it, Jordan.
And honoring of what is sacred is one of the foundational aspects of creating healing and transformation in life. This is even built into the essence of Spirit Mysteries. And so even if you have no other experience with sacred in your life, treat this place as a sacred space.
A point worth mentioning is that Jordan meets Thoth in a place called Rhythmia that he has a financial connection to. This is an ayahuasca treatment plant that you could basically go to and take ayahuasca in a group. Many of the things practiced at Rhythmia are things that Jordan teaches and preaches about. This concepts like sacred geometry. You can just see the website on screen right now. There is a link between the two.
This is probably going to be one of the strangest videos that I've ever recorded, and it feels right to record it. It's kind of setting an intention to get there if I can. This video is about Emma Watson.
Jordan is incredibly charismatic and persuasive, and I know that us watching this video right now might think that, wow, this guy is crazy, but that is not the case. These cult leaders are the only people that have connections or direct relations to God or godlike figures, which in this case, as we've explored, Thoth is the godlike figure of this religion.
You know, Dan Locke, who's one of my mentors, and we've shared some of his videos inside of the Library of Transformational Materials. And also, if you're struggling with finances, he's like the best person, best of the best.
Another red flag is that Dan Locke is his mentor. If you don't know who Dan Locke is, please go see your nearest CoffeeZilla video.
We are attempting to explore a deeper, perhaps darker, area of human consciousness and see the bigger picture of what is really going on. Please have your own experience, do your own research, and don't be afraid to go deeper down the rabbit hole. For the truth is often stranger than fiction.
From the moment I saw the conspiracies tab, I knew I had to go there. I had to see what was on the conspiracies tab, and it was filled with literally every conspiracy that you have ever heard. These videos talk about these conspiracies, but they talk about them in a way that is able to match them with different Hermetic ideas. And yes, I watched the episode about aliens because I'm certain everybody that knows about Jordan knows about this belief of his, but Jordan believes that Jewish people, the Jews, came from outer space. It doesn't mention that, but that is a belief of Jordan's, but it does mention David Icke, who is the man that popularized the idea of a reptilian global conspiracy, that all the world leaders are actually reptilians. And they're able to actually link this to a Hermetic idea in these videos. They mention about how the reptilians that David is talking about in these things are something called the archons, which are mentioned in Gnostic text, directly linking David Icke's conspiracy to the religion that they're teaching. The simulation conspiracy theory is also brought up here, and they actually link this to the Hermetic idea of the Gnostic demiurge.
Conspiracy theory of everything begins first with the demiurge. The demiurge is an ancient Greek and Gnostic concept describing a consciousness that is considered to essentially be the creator of the physical universe, but not the supreme creative force behind all things. A good way to explore this idea is through the Matrix.
I continue to watch these episodes and delve deeper into the madness of spirit mysteries, looking to see when and where they would fit their religion into these conspiracy theories, where they were saying they were just informing the public. No, they were preaching. The next episode actually had to do with adrenochrome, Jeffrey Epstein's laptop, and a little black book, Anthony Weiner's laptop, rather, the Clintons, all of that.
Of adrenochrome, a compound formed by the oxidation of adrenaline in the body, formed naturally when we experience extreme fear and stress. The pervading theory on the internet suggests that the ruling elite of the world use children in insidious rituals.
I don't think it's wrong for people to talk about conspiracy theories. That's not the problem here. The problem here is that it's being linked to Hermetic ideas. Linking religion to conspiracy theories is a powerful cult brainwashing tactic because it creates a physical evil for the religious to fight against. There's a group known as the Falun Gong, which is incredibly persuasive with their propaganda. In fact, their ability to do this has made some conspiracy theories almost come off as certain fact. This meshing of conspiracy theory and political subterfuge with religion is a great tactic for getting people convinced that there's something going on here. A video of spirit science that got a lot of flack, including his Hollow Moon one, was The Hidden History of Humankind. I know I brushed over that, but Jordan believes that the moon is hollow and like a man-made object. The Hidden Human History movie is very interesting because this video is incredibly long, and the video links Hermetic origin stories, ideas, and myths to other world religions, making the idea of Hermeticism seem more palatable to people that might be religious or passively Christian or passively some other religion, by making direct connections and saying they're all part of a same universe, so you should be able to easily more adopt these ideas. The Hidden Human History movie mentions a bunch of things that either did or didn't happen, but rather probably didn't. It mentions mystical groups throughout humankind that helped influence us, such as the Nacals. These were presumed magical Mayan missionaries, right, of the ancient Mayan Empire, created by a fringe archaeologist by the name of Augustus Lepong, who, as far as my research can tell, nobody really took seriously on this whole thesis of this mystical ancient magical Mayans. He made connections between the Mayans, Atlantis, and the Freemasons. Where he actually got these ideas, I don't know. In fact, nobody seems to know. The guy just had them, and because he was a quack, people just ignored him. It should be mentioned how Jordan's authority in these videos is presented as absolute. Not only is he standing at a talking podium, but the presentation of these videos makes it seem more child-friendly and easier to bring in other people. It's all about making it as palatable to the average person as possible, of which Patchman is a great example of. The higher pitched voice, the positive tone and outlook of these videos is all intentional. Ironically, something worth mentioning is that Patchman is actually an adopt. Jordan brought this from a friend in high school. But who is this Drenuvalo guy? He keeps coming up and he has a name like a druid. So, born Bernard Donald Pernora, he's a seminal writer of New Age in the 2000s. He basically helped repopularize it in this time. He's actually responsible for naming this object, which you may have seen in your average mall incense store. This object is known as the Flower of Life, because in a 1999 book he wrote, The Ancient Secrets, The Flower of Life, Drunvalo covered this and many other Hermetic ideas. You see, a very similar origin story happened with Drunvalo that Jordan also went through. You see, Drunvalo, after a death experience in the 70s, two angels, one purple and one green, appeared to him, and they would lead him to spiritual teachers who one of the first teachers was a man by the name of Wilf Chipman, who I can't find any information on, but according to Drunvalo, this man was an alchemist, which, as we all know, alchemy is associated with Hermetic and Gnostic faith. It's directly linked to it. From this man, he learned of the ancient mystical Jewish Kabbalah. Basically, this is a mystical version of the Jewish text. From there, Drunvalo went and met a man by the name of Kirpal Singh, a yogi and a creator of Ruhai Satsang, School of Spirituality or Science of the Soul, which has a very similar name to a certain spirit science. What makes this very interesting, and I will also tie to Jordan in a couple of minutes, is that Drunvalo met these men through astral projection. So his soul left his body and they communicated on an astral plane outside the physical realm, of which we cannot see or touch or have tangible access to, unless we are somebody who agrees with the ideas of New Age mysticism. So I don't know if Drunvalo's lying or not, but Kirpal Singh is a real person. You see, Jordan had a very similar astral projection experience after taking ayahuasca, because he met Emma Watson, the famous actress. That video was not received well, and many of Jordan's followers even mocked him, saying that he was essentially down bad.
I had this very profound, realistic experience, really. It's like a visionary experience of Emma Watson and I talking. And it was just as if it was as if I was just there in a room chatting with her. And she was interested in spirituality and in talking to me about all manner of different things. And we had this really long conversation. And afterwards I was like, huh, that was very interesting. Okay, whatever. I mean, I like just kind of let it go. Very special intention for myself. I said I wanted to embody the Spirit of Christ. And it was a very, very profound week. I remember lying down at one point and I just felt this presence, like these eyes staring at me, like right here. And I'm like, huh? And I like sort of, with my mind's eye, kind of like turned my head, I guess, and like looked over, and it's Emma Watson.
A lot of this is repackaged Drunvalo stuff. Jordan definitely isn't hiding that. However, I doubt many people have went to go pick up Drunvalo's books in the last decade. However, many people fall out of their religion and fall into science, and the name spirit science presents itself as a cross between philosophy and science, as something more than religion, something different, something that the a-religious could get behind. To be frank, many people probably don't know the origins of these things or have been fed fast facts and information from the internet that is outright bad information. So Jordan is able to create a basically empty playing field where he can create the origin of these things. If you're able to associate astrologies, horoscopes, or anything's origins with Thoth or anything Hermetic, there is a higher likelihood that you'll fall into spirit mysteries. It's creating an entryway for people to get involved. Once you spend money to get into spirit mysteries, to be more involved in the thing that you like or engage with as a hobby, you're going to find yourself wanting to explore it more. Well, if you want to explore tarot readings more, don't worry, Jordan's got you covered. He's got you covered for basically every single New Age thing you could want. As stated, Jordan builds these classes and situations in such a way that Hermetic views are going to be presented in it. It's going to tie them to the religion. Don't worry, not only have you found meaning, you found plenty of classes for you to spend your hard-earned post-pandemic money on. Want to fix your life? Well, that's $27 a month with one of Jordan's classes, no problemo. Maybe alchemy or Wicca specifically applies to you. Maybe you're that kind of person. Well, don't worry, Jordan also has a class for $27. Now, let's say if you want to be that master tarot card reader, let's say you want to really understand tarot from the most basic level all the way to the most advanced concepts. Well, that is $200 a month right? And in that course, there is 150 hours of course material, so good luck finishing that. There's even a finance course which uses that mystic Hebrew Kabbalah alphabet to somehow unlock the secrets of money, and that course is $50. Which, by the way, all of this like Jewish money magic stuff literally directly ties into the whole Jewish money conspiracy thing. So, I mean, I don't really think I need to elaborate on why that's bad, but I'm just laying it out plainly that I don't think that Jewish people are somehow magic money manipulators. Really, you might have noticed there's a bit of a sunk cost here. The more money you put in, the harder it is really to leave it. And on top of this, you're in a community, this community that reinforces these beliefs, some of which might even become your friend. You might associate with each other on social media. And as a result, you're basically trapped here. Your entire social life is around here. And if you somehow start to run a business based off of these things, well, Jordan might even scoop you up and put you onto council. But then he also, you know, you're trapped here. There's no way out. It's amazing that one of the only times that Jordan got backlash was for that Christ Sophia thing, because the pricing on these classes is absolutely insane. And I understand you don't have to pay for them. However, people looking for guidance or clarity in their life are definitely going to pay for them. There is zero accountability with Jordan at all, even on the financial front. If it isn't clear, Jordan isn't presenting as a religion up front. In fact, he's presenting himself as more of a self-help philosophizer. He is running a religion. He is running a religion online. They should be a religion, which means they should be disclosing their financial statements. There is no financial clarity whatsoever with spirit mystery, spirit science, or anything at all. This should be a red flag for a lot of people when there's no financial disclosure of a religion. This might mean that there's funny shenanigans going on, and money is laundered all the time through religions. This isn't something new. This happens all the time. This is why you should be careful of who you're donating to and where. Spirit mysteries could very easily open the gate to just believing absolute nonsense. I mean, the conspiracy theories lessons are already bad enough, and the fact that they link them to certain religious aspects is absolutely insane. On top of that, they use things like literally QAnon as a source. That, on top of all the anti-Semitic rhetoric just weaved in through all these lessons, is absolutely awe-inspiring in the worst way possible, because I didn't know how somebody could be so positively anti-Semitic in my life. Even if Jordan puts forth the argument that this isn't a religion, therefore it can't be a cult, that's a lie. As I've stated and explained, the history of this is a religion. On top of that, cults aren't based in religion. Any group with a hierarchy, as I've stated before, can be a cult. I'm not the only person saying this. The professional culty programmers are the people saying this. What you see on the public side of things is a facade. This is only to make it seem that something is something else, when in reality, at the core, it's a cult. Because cults aren't about religion, they're about control. There is zero accountability for Jordan or any of the BS he spews. I think it's very interesting that Jordan has gotten all of these people to sign up for his classes because of him, because of his personality, not because of the ideas being taught here. It's because of Jordan. Lots of these people mention how they fell into this life because Jordan opened their eyes to the idea of chakras. On top of that, no, Team Spirit wouldn't give any accountability to Jordan. These are Jordan's biggest supporters. All of this is part of Jordan's system of control. On top of that, one of the things that people would love to spend money on is religion. You can make a lot of money just simply marketing the ideas of a religion to people. And if you're still okay with what Jordan's doing and you're not bothered by any of the stuff that I've mentioned before, I think this might be the smoking gun. Jordan's mask has only slipped a couple of times, and I should mention that this gets pretty graphic. So if you're someone who has dealt with SA or any similar things, I'll leave a timestamp so that way you can skip this. The following is a quoted retelling of a victim of Jordan's. Most of this stuff has been removed from the internet because they got harassed basically into oblivion. The Internet Archive was able to grab some of these, which is how I was able to do that, as well as articles reporting on it on the time and some Reddit posts. The only thing that I've removed here is the victim's name, because the person involved was already doxxed from this, and it seems that they're looking to move on from this situation. So I'm not going to include their name in this, just for their own privacy. In 2012, the victim T was coerced by Jordan into having sex after repeatedly saying no. Jordan and T were traveling together. While in Portland, T shut herself in a room to be alone. Jordan entered the room and sat next to her. He turned her head to face his. He uncrossed her arms from her chest. He removed both of their clothes and initiated a quote-unquote chakra healing, in which he kissed each one of T's chakras from her head to her vagina without her consent. T stated, "I didn't want to be touched. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I wanted to be alone." Douche Knight asked T to have sex, telling her that this sex would help heal her root and sacral chakras. T said no, but Douche Knight continued to ask until she involuntarily consented. T cried during the entire act, but Douche Knight continued until he climaxed. In 2016, an investigation was opened into Jordan, and the following is a call between the two recorded in 2017. Again, if you don't want to listen to this, timestamps to skip this as well.
Clearly said no. I kept saying no. And I don't know, I just want to understand why. Like, I just want to be able to put the past behind us, behind this, and move forward, you know?
Yeah.
I just need to understand. And I know we've kind of talked about this before in those, on Facebook. And I was so scared.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Would you be able or willing to come down to Arizona and see me when I'm down there?
I don't know, because this is like the whole reason why I haven't been able to talk to you in years.
I mean, on a purely, if it's just the logic of understanding, there's a combination of things, but the alchemical ingredients for what happened were really, one, how old was I, 20? A 20-year-old boy who is overcome with desire for the most beautiful woman that he's ever met, I don't know if you know, because you've not experienced this, at least in this lifetime, but that particular age for men is they're just hormone sex machines. That's the only thing that's on their mind.
But Jordan, I said no.
Jordan, I know, and I'm trying to answer your question. I'm trying to explain how we got here from my understanding. And it really did come from love. And I know that that's not, it wasn't right. Clearly, as the results have demonstrated. But the state that I was in was that I wanted to love you and I wanted to be loved by you. And I was completely overcome with lust. And that's entirely on me. And the part of it that's yours is that, yes, I asked a million times. And yes, you said no a million times. But at one point, you said yes. And that's what led to it happening. And if you can own that part of it, then it might become a lot easier to move forward with, is accepting that you did agree to it in the end. And
I was crying the whole time. I
didn't know what you were crying about.
You didn't know.
I thought there was something else bothering you because you were, look, I don't know.
But you remember me crying. Don't you think that was a bad time? I didn't really have I didn't have good judgment. Don't you think you should have stopped if I was crying?
I wish that I could have.
You just kept going. You just kept going until you finished.
I'm sorry.
You know you did. You know,
The reason it took T so long to come forward was because of how ingrained she was in the New Age community. If T were to come out publicly against spirit science, this would directly impact a lot of her relationships with people, especially with a mentor of hers by the name of Teal Swan. And if you know who that is, you know that she definitely deserves a video of her own, and she is on the docket. You see, Teal Swan is a controversial New Age figure known for her teachings about suicide. In it, Teal Swan basically has the mentally unwell meditate on the idea of committing suicide, and through this is supposed to heal them and keep them from going through with it. When Teal was doing business with spirit science, T found out about this, and T came to Teal and said, I don't want you to do business with spirit science because he did SA. To this, Teal said, it's business, and besides, I don't believe that you were raped. It should be mentioned that Teal is a clairvoyant, and her teachings of killing yourself being a reset button have been a serious point of contention in her career from the moment she's basically started saying stuff like that. There's also a statute of limitations on these things. Basically, the statute of limitations on this means a few things. Because T held off on reporting this for so long, no one will believe her. Jordan has a legion of followers behind him to basically control the narrative when he makes a public statement. When I was researching this part of the story and the history of Jordan, I saw plenty of harassment from spirit science viewers, which, by the way, if you're a viewer of FPS Diesel, please do not go harass Jordan or his followers. Don't do that. Listen, somebody comes in here and says something ridiculous about me, go right ahead, defend me, but I don't need you to go into other videos and do that for me. So basically, there was an investigation opened, but the investigation could never result in criminal charges. However, a civil suit is not off the table in this situation. Granted, it's been so long now, and from what I've seen of where T's at and how T's doing in their life right now, they are not looking to do it, at least publicly. You know, a lot of this stuff is held off behind the scenes, so it could always take some time. As stated, coercive persuasion is a powerful tool. It's the basis of control and mind control in cults. The conversations of chakras or some spiritual metaphysical entity or energy being unlocked through sexual acts is something that happens quite a bit in these cults. Many cult leaders have facilitated concubines, sexual exploitation, and pedophilia either by using mystical means or their spiritual status as leaders as excuses for why they're able to take advantage of people. Jordan did respond to T in a blog post, and in it he defended himself. Jordan's post lines up with the timeline of them opening up conversation again in 2016 and then in 2017. Jordan mentions how the conversations in the call you heard earlier were kind of persuaded out of him, according to Jordan. Jordan includes some of the conversation that led up to the call, of which you can see on screen right now. Jordan then goes on to say that the only reason he confessed to this crime was because he thought, quote unquote, lying about it would help the victim feel better, as he didn't know he was being investigated. That by him saying and agreeing that she was raped, that it would help her, quote, feel better. He even admits how he should have said, quote, you felt raped. Jordan went on to say, quote, it was in these conversations that you alluded that if I were to confirm your story, you would be able to find peace and put this whole thing behind you. Jordan responded to the comments underneath this blog, which only muddied the waters any further. Either way, there's something that we're not being told. I'm very much inclined to believe T, because a lot of Jordan's reasoning is very strange. For example, the reason he gave into her want for admittance of rape was because he had maintained a quote-unquote unhealthy past relationship where he gave into another person's demands. Jordan didn't defend himself until T went public. Jordan in private at no point said that this isn't how it went, and him saying this, that he was basically lying to make sure she was okay, is just a really strange thing to say. When something so serious is being allegated of you, you'd want to profess your innocence. Jordan then goes on to mention specific points about their relationship, which definitely raise alarm bells for me. So Jordan mentions that their relationship together cured her depression, stopped her from drinking, and when they fell apart, she had picked up all these vices again. According to Jordan, this was because she was quote-unquote abused as a child. Reading this sounds like someone trying to discredit a victim rather than address the actual claim. Jordan claims that after speaking with certain people that this was T, the victim, trying to displace their childhood trauma onto Jordan. Put plainly, Jordan says that he did not sexually assault her. But all of this stuff makes it really questionable of whether or not I should actually trust anything he's saying, because whether or not somebody was abused as a child or was in a past bad relationship should really have no bearing on the current situation. Jordan then even went and made a video on spirit science defending himself, where he mentions the same ayahuasca healing place that he has a financial connection to. Then in this video, I cannot make this up, he literally makes the "it all started when I was born" argument. You see, Jordan says that this is him acting out a quote-unquote masculine wound because his father had committed suicide when Jordan was born. This led him to quote-unquote crave sex, and then he preaches some more.
With the plant medicine, I was able to see that the reason that this situation happened between us at all was because I was playing out a masculine wound. I was emotionally limited to only feeling myself. I could not feel my partner. Throughout this ayahuasca ceremony, I was then taken even back further in time and watched a series of events that transformed my life and changed me into a boy who couldn't feel. It began with the death of my father. His suicide shortly after my conception sowed a seed of abandonment, rejection, and fear into me before I was even born. Being born into a world without a father, I had to come to understand my masculine and sexual energies without proper guidance.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, or at least from my perspective, that in my mind, when a woman is saying no, 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 and then caves and says yes, that's actually a no. Like, if you're not about some kind of stuff that's going on, you're not about it, and that's what it is. Caving to pressure doesn't count as consent, really, in my case. I don't see it as that. However, I understand why there would be an argument to be had there. However, Jordan's argument is that their relationship was very good, and I was just lying in the call, so that way you felt better. The things surrounding Jordan and the clear power he has over thousands of people with his religious teachings are definitely a cause for concern. Listen, I'm not about to trust the guy's story when he's the same guy who talks about the moon being hollow, Jews being from outer space, and Atlantis being a real place. You know, I have people close to me who are survivors. I have friends who had thought they, you know, as men, that they had crossed the line when in reality they didn't, and they felt bad about it. You know, I've been alive enough to at least see that stuff and have a grasp over how you should act, and Jordan's behavior is so incredibly strange. As for Jordan's argument that his childhood trauma is the justification for why he did shitty things is really not a good argument. I don't really think that childhood trauma justifies you being a dick to the people in your life. Like, we all got baggage, we all carry it, I carry it too, but I don't go walking around in the streets acting like my childhood trauma. I don't do that. Jordan basically got off with this. He didn't really receive any flack for this, and people were very open to taking his quote-unquote apology or video where he defends himself, as well as the blogs. I mean, reality here is that Jordan just has way too many followers for the other person to get a word out edgewise. I wasn't there in the room, you know, I'm not trying to say that I have all the answers, and I don't want that to be the case. However, if I had to take a shot in the dark, that's where my opinion would lie. I think I've made that clear. It should really just be a cautionary tale though. Spirit Mysteries is a new age cult. That is what it is, full stop. It's a group ran by a charismatic young leader who has a great smile, and I won't lie, the guy's not ugly. He's handsome, he's charismatic, he's got a way with words. He's really great at draining helpless young people's money on useless garbage that looks awful. He can control the narrative, move it however he wishes, and he's able to even tie his religion into conspiracies that people might already believe. If Spirit Mysteries turned around and decided to be a political entity tomorrow, I would be very worried. He is by far one of the biggest speakers in the New Age movement. It is alarming. I think there's a problem here. Point being here is that you should not give Jordan any of your time and money. I assure you, if you want to be involved in New Age and do things like that, that there are, one, real neo-pagan religions in your area. They exist now. That is very common. You can go there. They have financial disclosure. They are non-for-profit businesses. It's out there, you can find it. Also, by the way, you're just investing in your local community, so just do that instead. And yes, I understand that I gave Jordan $10 so that way I could delve deep into him, but I didn't use my own card. I protected my identity and all that stuff. And just do not do it. Don't spend the money to go on Spirit Mysteries to go make a troll account and do all that. Don't do it. Okay, just don't. I am telling you right now. Point is, I think Jordan is a bad person. This guy, I don't like him having a platform, really. I don't like deplatforming people, but this guy clearly has ulterior motives that are very bad, and his opinions are nuts. And I doubt that Jordan will suffer for this video, you know, but it doesn't mean you have to suffer because you've fallen for Jordan. So if you're in that world, it's time to cash out. It's time to stop. Anyway, with that being said, my name is FPS Diesel. This has been episode 1 of my cult series. And don't worry, Shane Dawson, I think I did a better job than you.
If you made it to the end of this video, it means that I put it out and I finished editing. So this has been the longest project I've ever worked on, period, full stop. The longest amount of time in my entire career on YouTube. So share it around if it interests you. Subscribe. You know, tell your family about it at Christmas dinner, all that stuff. I am so proud of myself for finally reaching the end. I've been doing this since early October. I don't know if I said that already, but I'm repeating myself. So it's been a very huge process for me to do this, to read and research and be knowledgeable enough to bring something to the table that is worth discussing, because I didn't want to just make some fuddy-duddy stupid skeptic video. So if you can support the channel, please do. I'd like to do more videos like this. I'd like to do I enjoy commentary, but I want to be a bit more investigative with it. I want to be able to let the stuff breathe. I want to incorporate what I wasted over $100,000 on, my degree, into what I make. I want to express myself and do that. And I am very happy that I'm putting this out at the end of the year. It's been an incredibly tough year for me. I don't know if I'll put out another video before next year, because I have another huge video in the pipeline. But I just want to say, if I do or don't, depending on what happens, maybe I'll put out some little stuff. I just want to say thank you for all that. Just, you know, for the people that stuck around, I appreciate it a lot. So yeah. For me, it's like 4 a.m., so good night.